The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Grace.
And you're with us on our Durian ASEAN. Today we are going to talk about arts in Malaysia. And we are going to talk to Izan. She's the founder of MyPAA. And for the current project, which is corporate supporter for the Arts Conference, which will be held on the 24th of August, she is also helping to co-curate programs and networks for the event. And guess what, Grace?
What?
She's with us now to share about the information about the event and her thoughts on arts as well as corporate supporters for arts. First of all, welcome to the studio.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi. Good to be back here again.
So, why you started MyPAA in the first place? Before we go to talk about the arts conference.
Right. Well, I guess when we started in 2012, there was an opportunity. We were part of a Pemandu lab discussion. Pemandu, which stands for Performance Management Delivery Unit, that sits under the Prime Minister's office. And we thought,
so you are working with the government?
Yeah.
On that side.
MyPAA is independent, but of course we engage everyone. We engage the government, we engage the private sector, and we engage the communities. So at that point of time, obviously MyPAA was not set up yet, but I pitched of a platform to undertake a lot of strategic efforts to develop the ecosystem. The first time it was pitched, it was rejected. We pitched again the second time, also rejected.
And on what grounds, by the way?
Bad memory, so I don't really remember. But the third time, after getting all that feedback, I remember tightening it up and went back, right? And actually, it was picked up. The idea of pulling everyone together and cultivating this sector was picked up. It was meant to start in 2013, but when we presented it to the ministry at the time, it was under Tan Sri Rais Yatim. It was Ministry of Information, Communications and Culture. They said, why wait for 2013? Start immediately.
I see.
So we started work at my dining table for many months. So
that's your
that's our
your garage.
Our garage, our initial setup as a startup, right? And the idea of MyPAA is really simple. It's meant to just cultivate the ecosystem by bringing three sectors closer: government, private sector, and the community.
And that was how many years back?
Well, we're 2016 now, so 4 years ago.
Oh, 4 years ago.
we're still here.
There is always a purpose of founding something.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to this particular organization. You found it because you saw some problems in the industry that you wanted to give some kind of solutions to the industry.
Yes.
So could you elaborate more on that?
Sure. So I guess in the ecosystem, in every ecosystem, especially the arts, there's a different value chain, right? And different stakeholders involved. So when we had done our own analysis of this ecosystem, we saw a lot of gaps. I guess from the ideation of the production to the pulling together funding, marketing, producing, ensuring that there's enough tickets that are being sold.
And when you speak to artists, they usually work in silos. They're like, business what?
Yeah, business. What are you talking about, girl? So, and when you talk to the government, it's a totally different language. And when you speak to the private sector, it's a different language as well, right? So it's KPIs, and government is absolutely different. And it's a national agenda. Are you hitting the masses? So for the community, the artists, we want to just put shows on. We want to produce. We want to be able to do our artistic work. So we can't expect artists to also be businessmen.
It's really hard.
It's like asking a fisherman to be a dancer. They're just two different skill sets. So we're here to try and manage expectations of different sectors, but also to provide specific platforms that bring them together so that they're more connected, that can translate into different things.
I think your expertise here is bringing people of different sectors, different skill sets to one event. Hence, we have the arts conference. If you can elaborate more, like what is the expectation of the conference?
Well, the Corporate Funders for the Arts Conference, this is the first Corporate Funders for the Arts Conference as well, mind you. When we started, funders of the arts, they're like artists as well. They tend to do things in isolation as well, meaning that you might find a corporate funder funding festivals. One is funding Islamic arts. The other one is doing community engaged arts. Everyone tends to be doing different things. They're also not connected. So we created this platform in 2014 where we meet the funders twice a year. It's a closed meeting. We have about 20-30 corporations coming to join this discussion.
It's very interesting because to have all of them at one place, they will have a different kind of ideas.
Yes,
and then the
absolutely.
communication, there will be some kind of barriers because we speak different languages,
Yeah.
artists and businessmen. So creating even the platform to have them all together, it wasn't really easy.
No, we didn't think we would have been able to sustain those conversations till today. But the first time when we did it, I said to my team, never mind lah, if there's 6.6, it's a start. But we had 20.
Wow.
And that has
Shows that
increased.
they see the potential of
Yeah.
the arts industry.
I know the artists may not want to be part of those conversations, or may not even like it because business is a dirty word to them.
So much of headaches.
Headaches.
Yeah.
I'll be compromising my artistic integrity of my work. All these conversations exist, in this roundtable discussions as well. We have introduced artists, smaller group of artists to the corporates, and it's very interesting the discussions that they have and the disagreements that they have as well is very evident. But I think the idea of them coming together is a great start.
Yep.
So this has culminated into a bigger partnership between MyPAA and the Association for Corporate Support of the Arts Japan. Now, this association, in short called KMK, existed since 1990, I think. And
Wow, this is before even the Japanese came here to invade Malaya.
Oh my God, that's not so long. We're young, ma. So they represent 200 corporate organizations and philanthropists in Japan, which I think is amazing. Their funding for the arts is as big as the Japan government. And they basically take the lead in spurring the growth of the arts in Japan ahead of the government. And so the government takes a lot of advice from them. So MyPAA has basically formed this bilateral agreement in the early 2016 to also learn from them and benchmark. But in addition to that, starting this Corporate Funders for the Arts Conference, which is actually next week, 24th August.
This will be the first time, and since we are, focusing solely on the event, like what can people expect? And is it open to all?
Yes, it's open to all. So this is the first time our discussions is open to public. Open in the sense that anyone who is interested, corporations who may be considering, what should I do with my CSR money? Maybe I should consider the arts. This is a good platform to gather intelligence and meet other corporate organizations that may be in the same boat as you. Or perhaps even learn from corporations who have actually done a bit more on the arts. But also for artists who may not have easy access to these corporate funders, who may not understand what the hell are you talking about, right? From a corporate side, I think they have to justify to their shareholders, to their board of directors, as to why they're doing or supporting the arts. So it's a great platform, and two, of course, it's ticketed. So it's if you go online, mypaa.com.my/KMK conference, you can secure a ticket. We actually only budgeted about 120 people, but I've checked today there's about 140 plus who have registered for the event.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are
And
lots.
this is only the first time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we need to triple the number the next time.
Well, we'll see how it goes, lah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great start.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Since this is the end of our first segment, we will have more time to discuss on the second segment where we dwell deeper on the arts industry in the country as well as the issues and concerns among artists.
Sure.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back, this is Grace.
And you are still with us on our Durian ASEAN. We will continue our second segment of discussion with Izan, founder of MyPAA, and she also helped to co-curate programs and networks for the corporate supporters for the Arts Conference, which will be held on 24th of August.
That's right.
And this second segment, we will dwell deeper on the issues regarding the arts industry. I'm sure a lot of people have different views, and you, Grace, you are also part of the arts industry. I'm sure a lot of things that you have in your mind.
I could totally agree with you when you mentioned about Japan, the art scenes in Japan, how the whole scene is very well supported by the government, not only the government, even from the public itself. And that goes the same in Korea as well. Because I'm from that country where I've experienced the industry there. It's very interesting, and we as Koreans, we stick together to support particular scenes. But whereas in Malaysia, one thing I've noticed is it's so diverse. Because it's so diverse, it comes with languages, culture.
Everything is compartmentalized in a way.
Yeah, so when it comes to art, you really don't you have too many choices that you don't know what to pick.
Having said that, so I want to throw the question to you, like, how do you unite all these different components together?
Well, we're not savior of the arts, so we can't do everything.
No, you will have your own movie, maybe called Wonder Woman or Justice League.
But some people have coined MyPAA as glue, because we tend to bring these people together. So we're an important glue to be able to, I guess, get people to converge in one platform. Not everyone will have the same opinion. I think there are a lot of different layers of communities. That's in the sense that there are some who are very pure in terms of their thoughts and think that, hello, I am great. There should be a better infrastructure to support the arts and people like me. In other countries, people like me are treasures, right? And they support the arts because I'm able to create works that will pull people together and question, provide critical thinking. And that is actually, we have amazing talent, but we don't have the support to support them. And it's really quite a shame because our campaigns to the world were so rich in culture, but once you arrive, where do you go?
I think being a platform is trying to set like a better example that we can actually become an equal playing field for all artists, regardless whether they are big or small.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we're just seeding a platform that they can come together. The Corporate Funders for the Arts Conference is that platform for them to have direct access to the corporates and engage them as well. I mean, I don't have access to all the funders as well, and a lot of the relationships we have built that have translated into friendships, that was built over many years. And to some artists, it's like, I got no time, to build networks. So I think it's important that they're producers or partners who may be able to spare the time to attend, we would encourage for them to come.
And also, I believe that it's a part of education for both sides, for businessmen and also artists. I mean, on the same day at the same place, we'll be facing each other.
I like the story of Shiseido that you told in the first segment, where even the businessmen are so well, I guess, educated, is that the right word, on the idea of arts in their life that is become like their second nature. Yeah.
And then looking at the number of participants, right, for the first conference being held in Malaysia, I can feel that there are so many people who have been they have this thirst for something to happen. And I believe you guys brought up to this playground, so-called, for artists and also businessmen to come together.
Yeah. How do you approach them in a way where they actually see what you see in terms of arts?
Oh, that's really a a hard question. I suppose, so what we've done is within MyPAA we have our network, and our network generally supports the arts. So we have reached out to them, and we have engaged or approached some of our other partners who may have the networks that we're not in, you see. And we're hoping that companies beyond our networks will be able to join these discussions. And it's important because, if I was of a higher level, maybe if I was Sultan ke, Raja ke, or some politician, I may be able to pull these people together, but I'm not. And so we have to depend also with some of our partners who will be able to amplify this platform to their network and stakeholders as well. So it cannot depend purely on us.
I see. If you can just share the state of arts industry in the country, do you see more and more younger generation embracing it? How is it like?
Well, I've noticed, or I've come across two different communities. One community, they're collectives, they're movement, a movement that represents 20,000, 90,000 youth who engage in the arts, but in their own way. They don't want to be defined. They're not, they're rebels.
More like working in their own silo.
Yeah, they're in their own bubble. They're very happy. They, with or without any support, they will just move on. The other community is folks like Grace, very young, graduates who are very thirsty for the arts and very open to embracing different school of thoughts. They want to be mentored. They want to hear different opinions, and which is really good because that means they haven't been molded to thinking of a certain way. And this community itself are very into the arts and really want to be involved in the discussions. The more established ones, I think, people like me, we've been in, I'm not as established like any of the bigger icons in Malaysia, but I can understand some of their frustrations because of the inherent structure that we are in Malaysia. Build up the arts in Malaysia. I think we are like anak tiri here. Unfortunately, we're in an industry that no one really wants.
But as much as we do have some issues, what are the potentials that you see from this industry in Malaysia?
Well, I think if I speak at a broader level when it comes to economics, because that's what seems to be well received in the lords above, I think we take a look to Penang lah. Not too far away. Penang, when they started 6-7 years ago, and with the funding available from UNESCO and the state's commitment and Think City's involvement, their contribution to developing Penang as an arts destination has resulted in various things. I mean, I see youth, they're able to have the youth live in Penang instead of moving out to Kuala Lumpur, and you see a lot of boutique hotels and quirky cafes being built.
And I think at the end of the day, is that sense of identity that you are creating among people.
We can do the same here in KL, but it'll take a
one
lot
conference at a time.
It'll take a lot of work and a lot of convincing.
Anyway, this is the end of our second segment. In our third segment, we will talk about the way forward. How can private and public sector play a major role in developing the cultural economy in the country?
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back, this is Grace.
And you're still with us on Durian ASEAN and also with Izan, founder of MyPAA. And she also helped to co-curate programs and networks for the corporate supporter for the Arts Conference, which will be held on the 24th of August this year. going back to what we discussed in the second segment, I think we talk a lot on the state of arts industry in the country. Do you think getting in the corporate is the solution towards a more robust art industry?
Well, it's not a one
Or is
solution.
this just a beginning, like the first step?
It's a part of the ecosystem that needs to be cultivated. You see, when public funds are depleting, you also need to make sure you're able to find some form of mechanism to sustain some sort of funding for the arts. And the private sectors, without cultivating, are already doing so much for the arts. So if you actually put in more policies that will be relevant to them, I think you can see more support from the private sector for the arts. There is already a 700,000 ringgit tax exemption, meaning that if you're a corporate organization that supports the arts, you can enjoy 500,000 ringgit when you support a local production.
Oh, that's cool.
And 200,000 ringgit when you support an international production. But that has been around for a few years. If you look down south in Singapore, for every $10 you support, you will receive a tax exemption of $25, 2.5 times more than what you contribute. And when they celebrated their 50th year celebration last year, they increased that to 3. Wow. So every $10 you get $30 return, and the contribution for the arts spiked. Which is really amazing. And I think
we are seeing the results right now.
Yes. We want to push that 700,000 ringgit to a higher amount. It's a bit difficult. But I think for the corporate funders, one thing they have realized is like...
by the way, are you bringing in government agency either as observer?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. So they're all invited. We know for certain, I think there's certain networks that will be coming. For example, Bandung Creative City Forum will be attending, and that was started off by the Mayor Ridwan Kamil before he was mayor. You also have networks from Singapore coming in, and I believe the Ministry of Tourism and Culture folks in Malaysia will be attending as well. So it's necessary.
Necessary.
Yeah.
Another element that I want to highlight is something that Grace raised during off air, which is community support.
Right.
Like people actually buying the tickets to go to whatever arts and cultural shows. If you can just share some of the stories.
One of the stories I can think of is back in Korea, of course. The government, they do support elderly people because, they have nothing to do. The government is targeting
I think our older folks also might have nothing to do.
Them something, entertainment, but they will give them allowance.
Right.
So they, in a way that they will visit like theaters and
so this is, if I put it in the Malaysian context, it is BRIM but for arts.
Yes, pretty much. And that has been suggested to the government, I think, in a few years, but maybe it's not the right time.
I see.
I think when times are a bit tough, I think priority is priorities will always be given to education, healthcare, poverty, making sure that families have a home. So the arts are always on the side.
Do you see corporation playing perhaps a role at educating society on the importance of arts in this case?
Oh, absolutely. I think the corporations there are corporations who actually fund artists to advocate, meaning to go down to speak to different stakeholders, but also communities where their work is documented, to ensure that there is always a transfer of knowledge from this generation to the next. Because, say wayang kulit now has also been interpreted as a Star Wars wayang kulit, right?
Yeah.
For my son's children's or grandchildren, by his time, perhaps wayang kulit will take a different form. So it's very
maybe it's a Pokemon Go.
yeah, oh my God, but it could happen. But that's why it's very important for us to somehow document these works, and there are a lot of corporations who undertake that effort to help artists to document that. Pokemon Go, oh my God.
Well,
it's a fad now.
To penetrating
But I do want to expand the discussion about cultural economy, not just in the country, but to ASEAN. You mentioned a couple of Southeast Asian countries that will be present at the corporate supporter for the arts conference on the 24th of August. How do you see in the ASEAN ecosystem here? Through this conference, there will be a greater collaboration between countries?
Yes, definitely. I think one thing we realized when we were engaging Japan is that the Japanese Association KMK takes the lead, whereas ASEAN countries were very much dependent on the government. We take a lot of our directions from the government, so they're still important to be involved in discussion. So actually in the conference that morning, there is a closed meeting between ASEAN government organizations and intermediaries and NGOs to actually seed this discussion on how we can actually kick off a continuous platform of discussions as a way to engage corporates from in each market. So we're now having the Japanese help us cultivate these sort of discussions in Malaysia, and we're hoping we can do the same for other ASEAN countries.
Right. I mean, as someone who is doing sort of art in Malaysia, what I hope from all artists from Malaysia is to be able to think at a regional level, not just local level. Because I want to sort of hashtag made it here, but not only here. We have to collaborate with each other from different regions to understand each other better. That's the sort of that's another way to expand this art scenes, not only from Malaysia but then ASEAN level, if that's possible. Yeah.
I think it's easy for us to talk about it, but I do want to touch on perspective from the artists themselves, because off air you spoke about how outspoken, diverse as well in terms of their perspective on how they want to approach arts. What are the things that artists in Malaysia usually they would tell you, things that they concern about the industry?
Well, I think education is a very common topic that's being discussed, in the sense that the students in today's system, what they're learning now is the same thing we've learned when we were in school. So nothing really has progressed. There's no, I guess...
Well, we have a coding class now.
Oh, yes. I read the news. So, I mean,
that's the only thing.
That's great needle intervention, right? Micro intervention in certain layers. We should do the same for the arts. We recognize that the arts has provided amazing yield in terms of critical thinking. Because at the end of the day, coding, for example, we don't want just normal coders and entrepreneurs. We want creative, edgy entrepreneurs, right? And the only thing I think when we talk about creativity and innovation, we keep skipping the heartbeat of creativity and innovation, which is the arts. So it's very important for us to start young and somehow intervene in our public education system with the arts education.
I see. So education is one of the re-emerging topics that they keep on sharing with you.
Yeah.
So I guess you need to also bring in the education ministry in
Yeah.
your conference.
At some point. Yeah, that's quite true. Education, I didn't think about the ministry. Yeah.
Anyway, this is towards the end of our discussion. Thank you very much, Izan.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for tuning into Durian ASEAN. For more interviews by Durian ASEAN, please tune into our website at durianasean.com. If you're on the go, you can always download our TuneIn app on your mobile. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels at Durian ASEAN and Durian ASEAN TV. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram. We always welcome feedbacks from our listeners. Stay tuned with the Durian Heat from Tuesday to Thursday, the same time at 1 to 2 p.m. GMT+8.
You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.